They say the devil doesn't come with horns. He comes with a smile and a toolbox. I learned that the hard way. My name is Claire, and this is the story of how a leaky sink drowned my marriage, my sanity, and almost my daughter. It started on a Tuesday. Tuesdays were always the worst. The day David forgot our anniversary, the day Lily asked why Daddy never stayed home, the day the silence in our house grew teeth. But that Tuesday, the silence broke. And it had a name. Ethan. I first saw him through the kitchen window. Lily was chasing butterflies, her laughter bouncing off the empty walls like an echo of the childhood I'd lost. And there he was, Ethan. Tall, with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. He knelt beside her, handing her a flower. A rose. Red like the ones David gave me on our wedding day. Roses are like people, he told her. They die if you don't touch them enough. I didn't know it then, but he wasn't talking about flowers. He was talking about me. Talking to me. I stood there, frozen, my coffee gone cold in my hand. The way he looked at her. It wasn't paternal. It was predatory. But I ignored it. Because loneliness makes you stupid. Makes you hungry. And I'd been starving for years. The sink broke that afternoon. Water sprayed everywhere. A metaphor, really. David would have laughed at that. You and your metaphors, Claire. Always overcomplicating things. But David wasn't there. He was never there. So there I was, soaked and furious, when Ethan knocked. Need a hand? He asked, holding up that damn toolbox. I should have slammed the door. But his voice, it wasn't kind. It was a challenge. I fix sinks, not marriages, he said, brushing past me. His shoulder grazed mine, and I swear I felt it. The static, the heat, the danger. I told myself it was nothing. Liars are good at that. He worked in silence, sleeves rolled up, muscles flexing under ink I couldn't decipher. Tattoos of thorns, maybe. Or chains. I didn't ask. Didn't dare. He stayed for coffee. Black, no sugar, he said. Like my humor. I laughed. Actually laughed. It had been years since I'd laughed with a man who wasn't my husband. Or, was he even my husband anymore? David hadn't touched me in months. Not since the promotion, the late nights, that I'm too tired, Claire. But Ethan looked at me like I was a puzzle he wanted to solve. You're not like the others, he said. The others? I asked. He just smiled. The wives who pretend. I didn't ask what they pretended. I didn't want to know. But later, when he left, I found myself at the window watching him walk back to his house. His stride was too confident. Too familiar. Like he'd walked that path 1,000 times before. Later I found his toolbox in the garage. A dried rose fell out, tied with a black ribbon. Our anniversary date scribbled on it. To Claire, forever, David's handwriting. But this wasn't from David. This was old. Brittle. Like the petals would crumble if I breathed too hard. And beneath it, a photo. David at a carnival, arm around a woman who wasn't me. Younger, brighter, dead? I didn't know. But her eyes, they were Ethan's eyes. Same sharp green, same tilt. Sister? Lover? Ghost? My hands shook. That's when I heard the creak. The garage door. Him. Found something you like? He whispered. I dropped the rose. Shattered like glass. Who is she? I demanded. Ethan stepped closer, his shadow swallowing me. Someone your husband forgot. Just like he'll forget you. Dinner that night was silent. David chewed his steak like it owed him money. The neighbor fixed the sink, I said. Ethan. David didn't look up. Don't let Lily bother him. We don't know his real story. I almost laughed. His story. What about ours? The story where my husband forgot my birthday, our vows, my name? But I stayed quiet. Always quiet. Later I hid the dried rose in my jewelry box. Right next to my wedding ring. Poetic, right? Two dead things in a cage. That night I dreamed of roses. Thorns slicing my palms, blood dripping onto white lace. Lily's laughter echoing from somewhere far away. I woke up sweating. The house was too quiet. Too still. Like the air itself was holding its breath. I climbed to the attic, the one place David never went. Dusty boxes, old Christmas decorations, and a trunk. Inside, a wedding veil. Old. Not mine. A journal. And a fresh rose red as sin. The pages were filled with dates. Our dates. First kiss. First fight. First time he didn't come home. And photos. Lily at school. Me at the grocery store. Him at work. Photos I never took. Photos someone took. I dropped the journal. The flashlight shook in my hand. That's when I saw it, scrawled on the wall in jagged letters. You're next. The blood drained from my face. My knees buckled. And then a hand, pulled, rough, clamping over my mouth. Shoo, Ethan whispered. You'll wake the dead, Claire. His breath was hot, sour like whiskey. You shouldn't have looked. I elbowed him, stumbled down the stairs. But his laughter followed me. You're part of it now, he called. Part of what? I screamed. No answer. Just Lily's voice from her room. Mommy? Was Uncle Ethan here? I stood there, trembling, staring at her door. No, baby, I lied. Go back to sleep. I crawled into bed beside David. He snored. I stared at the ceiling. And the rose in my jewelry box. It was gone. In its place, a single thorn. Glossy. Like it had been dipped in blood. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Because I knew. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. A beginning I'd regret. A beginning that would end with me begging for the silence again. That's how it began. With a lie. A rose. A laugh. But it didn't end there. Because Ethan wasn't just a neighbor. He was a ghost. A reckoning. And by the time I realized what he wanted, it was too late to save myself. Too late to save Lily. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. Let me tell you about the day I realized my husband wasn't the only liar in this house. After that night in the attic, I told myself I'd stay away. But secrets have a way of pulling you back like thorns snagging your skin. The next morning, I found Lily in the garden. She was humming, digging a hole with her tiny hands. Planting roses, Mommy, she said. But the flower in her palm wasn't a rose. It was a lily. White, fragile, already wilting. Uncle Ethan gave it to me, she chirped. That's when I knew, the game had already begun. And I was losing. David left early that day. Business trip, he said. No goodbye. No kiss. Just the slam of the door. I stood there staring at his untouched coffee. Cold, bitter, like us. I poured it down the sink. The drain gurgled and for a second I swore I heard laughter. Ethan's laughter. I shook it off. Paranoia, right? But when I turned around, there he was, leaning against the counter holding a fresh rose. You look tired, Claire, he said. Let me make you breakfast. I should have screamed. Should have thrown him out. Dad, I sat down. Because loneliness is a poison. And I was already drunk on it. He cooked eggs. Sunny side up. Just like you like them, he said. I didn't remember telling him that. But Ethan knew things. Things he shouldn't. David's gone a lot, he murmured, sliding the plate toward me. Must be hard. Raising a child alone. I stabbed the yolk. It bled yellow. I'm not alone, I lied. He smiled. Aren't you? The radio played softly. Every breath you take. Ronick. I pushed the plate away. Why are you here, Ethan? He leaned closer. To fix what he broke. His hand brushed mine. I jerked back. The rose fell. Petals scattered like confetti at a funeral. Later, I found Lily's doll in the garden. Its porcelain face cracked, hair matted with mud. A note pinned to its dress. She's prettier when she's quiet. My blood turned to ice. I raced inside, calling her name. Lily. No answer. The house was silent. Too silent. Then giggling. From the basement. I threw open the door. There she was, sitting cross-legged on the floor. Ethan crouched beside her, teaching her to braid flower crowns. Look, Mommy. She beamed. Uncle Ethan says I'm a natural. He winked at me. Just like her mother. I grabbed Lily's hand, yanking her upstairs. Stay away from him, I hissed. She cried. I didn't care. Better a scared child than a dead one. That night I searched David's office. Dusty files, unpaid bills, and a key. Small, silver, labeled Storage Unit 214. I pocketed it. Maybe answers waited there. Or more lies. Either way I had to know. But first the attic. The journal. I climbed the stairs, flashlight trembling. The trunk was gone. In its place, a single rose. Fresh, dew-kissed. And a Polaroid. David and her. The woman from the carnival. Younger. Smiling. Her hand on his chest. His ring on her finger. My ring. The date scrawled on the back. June 12, 2005. The year we met. The year he swore I was his first. I crumpled the photo. Liar. 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 The storm woke me. Thunder cracked the sky. Lily whimpered in her room. I ran to her, but her bed was empty. Lily. I screamed. Rain lashed the windows. Then a giggle. Outside. I threw open the back door. There she was, dancing in the rain. Ethan stood under the oak tree watching. Get away from her. I roared. He smiled. She wanted to play. I grabbed Lily, soaked and shivering. Mommy, you're hurting me. She cried. I didn't let go. Couldn't. Back inside, I bathed her, scrubbing Ethan's scent off her skin. Why don't you like Uncle Ethan? She asked. Because he's not a good man, I whispered. She frowned. But he said you're not a good mommy. The words gutted me. That night, I slept with a knife under my pillow. The next morning, I drove to storage unit 214. Rusty gates, flickering lights. The place reeked of decay. Inside, boxes of David's old things. College yearbooks. Letters. And a locket. Gold, engraved with roses. Inside, a photo of her. Ethan's sister. Clarissa. Her name whispered through me like a curse. David's handwriting on the back. Forever my Clarissa. My hand shook. Clarissa. Claire. He'd named me after her. A replacement. A ghost. I smashed the locket. But in the shards I found a key. Smaller. Older. Labeled Carnival 2005. The year he'd sworn he loved me. The year he'd buried her. I followed the address on the key. An abandoned fairground. Rotting Ferris wheel, faded tents. And a trailer. Inside, dusty costumes, moth-eaten teddy bears. And a crib. A baby's crib. My breath hitched. Photographs lined the walls. David. Clarissa. And a baby. Their baby. My knees gave out. You're not the first, Ethan's voice echoed. He stood in the doorway smiling. But you'll be the last. I lunged at him. Where's Lily? He grabbed my wrists. Safe. For now. His breath smelled of mint and malice. David took everything from me. My sister. My nephew. Now I'll take everything from him. I spat in his face. I'm not yours to take. He laughed. Aren't you? He let me go. Run home, Claire. Check Lily's pillow. I drove like hell. Lily was asleep, clutching her doll. Under her pillow, a note. Tonight we finish this. And a single thorn. I collapsed. This wasn't a game. This was war. And Ethan? He wasn't the devil. He was the gardener. Planting seeds of doubt, watering them with lies. But I'd rip his roots out. Even if it killed me. That night I waited. Knife in hand. Rain pounding the roof. The clock ticked. Midnight. The front door creaked. Footsteps. Pose it. Claire, Ethan's voice. Honeyed. Deadly. I stepped into the hall. Stay away from my family, I hissed. He smiled, holding up a rose. Too late. Then Lily's voice. Mommy. She stood behind him, sleep-rumpled, confused. Ethan crouched, handing her the flower. For you, princess. He took it. Pretty. I lunged, snatching it. Thorns drew blood. Lily, go to your room. She cried. Ethan stood, towering over me. You'll break her, Claire. Just like he broke you. I raised the knife. Get out. He laughed. You'll beg me to stay. Then he left. But the rose remained. Red. Perfect. Alive. I burned it. Watched the petals curl to ash. But fire doesn't kill ghosts. The next morning, Lily's window was open. A trail of petals led to Ethan's house. I followed them. Because what choice did I have? The door was unlocked. Inside, photos. Of me. Of David. Of her. And a crib. Lily's crib. My blood ran cold. Claire, Ethan purred. Meet your replacement. He stepped aside. There she was. Clarissa. Not dead. Alive. Smiling. Holding a baby. My baby. Hello, Claire, she said. Did you really think you were the first? That's how it unraveled. With a lie. A locket. A ghost. But it didn't end there. Because the baby in her arms. It wasn't Lily. It was his. David's. And mine. A secret he'd buried. A secret that would bury us all. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. Let me tell you about the night I became the monster I feared. There's a moment when you realize the monster isn't under the bed. It's in the mirror. That night, staring at Clarissa and the baby, my baby, I saw my reflection in her eyes. Not a mother. Not a wife. A placeholder. A shadow. And in that moment I understood. David didn't just lie to me. He erased me. But Ethan didn't want to erase me. He wanted to become me. And he'd use Lily to do it. Clarissa stepped closer, the baby cooing in her arms. Say hello to your brother, Claire, she sneered. The child had David's eyes. My chin. A sickening mix of us. He's yours. I choked. She laughed. Ours. David's and mine. Conceived after you. Born before Lily. My legs buckled. The room spun. Why? I whispered. Ethan answered. Because David promised her forever. Then he met you. Poor lonely Claire. Easy to manipulate. Easier to replace. Clarissa handed me the baby. His name is Daniel. I dropped him. Not on purpose. My hands just let go. Ethan caught him. Careful, he hissed. Blood is thicker than vows. I ran. Through the rain, the mud, the graveyard of our lies. Back to Lily's room. A note on her pillow. You shouldn't have let go. I screamed. Screamed until my throat bled. Then I grabbed the knife. Not the one under my pillow. The bigger one. The one David used to carve our initials into the oak tree. C+D = forever. Liar. Liar. I hacked at the tree until the letters bled sap. Forever was a fairy tale. And I was done pretending. The carnival. That's where it ended. Where it had to end. The Ferris wheel groaned in the wind, rusted chains clanking like bones. I found them in the trailer. Ethan, Clarissa, Lily. My daughter sat at a tiny table sipping pretend tea. Mommy. He grinned. We're playing family. Clarissa smirked. I'm the mommy. Ethan's the daddy. Please. I lunged. The knife glinted. Ethan disarmed me in one motion. Naughty Claire, he tooted. You'll scare the children. Lily giggled. Uncle Ethan says we're moving to the circus. I grabbed her. We're leaving. Clarissa blocked the door. Not without Daniel. The baby wailed in the corner. My son. Her son. His son. Take him, I spat. But Lily's mine. Ethan laughed. You still don't get it, do you? He lifted Lily's sleeve. A fresh bruise. Daddy did that, she whispered. Daddy's angry. The world shattered. David hurt her. All those late nights. The rage. The silence. I'd blamed myself. But it was him. Ethan leaned in. He's not the man you married, Claire. He's the man I made. Clarissa stroked Lily's hair. We'll protect her. Like we should have protected Daniel. I looked at my daughter. Really looked. The fear in her eyes. The trust in theirs. Let her choose, Ethan said. Lily reached for him. I want to stay. The knife trembled in my hand. Lily, please, you're not my mommy. She screamed. You let him hurt me. Clarissa smiled. Come here, baby. And just like that I lost her. I stumbled out, the baby in my arms. Daniel. My son. David's sin. The rain washed his tears away. Or maybe they were mine. The trailer door slammed. Locks clicked. Lily's laughter faded. I collapsed in the mud, screaming at the sky. Take me instead. But God wasn't listening. The devil was. And he drove a pickup truck. David found me there. Soaked. Broken. Holding his secret. Claire, he began. I slapped him. You monster. He grabbed my wrists. I tried to protect you. From what? He looked at Daniel. From them. From me. His confession spilled out. Clarissa, the affair, the baby. Ethan's her brother. He threatened to expose me unless I paid him. But the money wasn't enough. He wanted you. I laughed. A hollow, broken sound. So you gave me to him? David's tears mixed with the rain. I thought he'd leave Lily alone. I shoved him. You don't get to cry. You don't get to breathe. The baby wailed. David reached for him. Let me fix this. I stepped back. Fix it. I hissed. You are this. We stormed the trailer together. A twisted family reunion. Ethan greeted us with a shotgun. Daddy's home. He crowed. Clarissa stood behind him, Lily on her hip. Say goodbye, princess, she cooed. David lunged. The gun fired. Flash. A scream. David fell. Daddy. Lily wailed. Ethan tossed the gun. Oops. I dropped to David's side. Blood pooled. His hand found mine. Save her, he gasped. Then he stilled. The man I'd loved. The man I'd hated. Gone. And all I felt was nothing. Ethan grabbed Lily. Time to go, Claire. Clarissa tossed me the car keys. Drive. Or die. I looked at Lily. Daniel. At David's corpse. Then I ran. Not toward them. Away. The engine roared. Tires screeched. In the rearview mirror, Ethan raised the gun. A shot rang out. The mirror shattered. Glass rained. But I didn't stop. Couldn't. Daniel cried. I didn't comfort him. I didn't deserve to. We hid in motels. Cheap ones. The kind with blood-stained sheets and roaches in the shower. I changed our names. Dyed my hair. Became someone else. But the nightmares followed. Lily's laughter. Ethan's voice. You can't outrun family, Claire. One night I woke to a knock. A rose on the doorstep. No note. Just a thorn. I packed again. Moved again. But the roses kept coming. Red. Relentless. Alive. Years passed. Daniel grew. Looked more like David every day. I hated him for it. Hated myself more. Then on his 5th birthday the doorbell rang. A package. No return address. Inside, a locket. Clarissa's locket. And a photo. Lily grinning in a carnival costume. Come play, mommy. Scrawled on the back. I burned it. Watched the flames eat her smile. Daniel asked, who's Lily? I lied. No one. But that night I dug up the knife. The one that killed David. The one that would kill them. The carnival was abandoned again. Rotting. Like us. I found them in the Ferris wheel. Thin, older. Weaker. Clarissa frail. Lily. 16. Beautiful. Fetid. Mommy, she said. No warmth. No hate. Just nothing. Ethan smiled. Took you long enough. I raised the knife. Let her go. Clarissa coughed. She doesn't want to leave. Lily nodded. I'm home now. The blade trembled. Lily, please, you left me, she said. You chose him. Daniel. My sin. My shame. Ethan stepped forward. Finish it, Claire. I plunged the knife. Not into him. Amy. The pain was sweet. Deserved. Lily screamed. Mommy. Finally she saw me. Really saw me. Ethan laughed. Pathetic. Then a gunshot. Daniel stood there, David's old shotgun in his hands. Ethan collapsed. Clarissa wailed. Lily ran to me. Mommy, don't leave. I touched her face. I never did. The world faded. But her tears, they felt like forgiveness. That's how it ended. With a bullet. Why? A mother's love. But it didn't really end. Because secrets don't die. They bloom. In the hospital they asked who shot Ethan. I said self-defense. They believed me. But Daniel knows the truth. I see it in his eyes, David's eyes. Sometimes I wake to roses on the porch. No thorns. Just petals. And I wonder, is he out there? Waiting? Or is it her? Clarissa. Lily. The ghosts of who I was. But I don't look. I don't run. Because the devil's not in the shadows. He's in the garden. And I've learned to love the thorns. They say time heals all wounds. Liars. Time just teaches you to limp. 5 years later, the scars are still there. Knife sharp on my ribs, shotgun puckered on Daniel's palm, and invisible ones on Lily's soul. We moved to a cabin in the woods. No neighbors. No roses. No lies. Or so I thought. But the past doesn't stay buried. It grows. And one day it knocks. Daniel found it first. A rose on the porch. No note. No thorn. Just a single red petal, soft as a heartbeat. Mom, he said, voice trembling. It's them. I burned it. Watched the smoke curl into the pines. It's nothing, I lied. But that night I checked the locks twice. Slept with the knife again. Lily didn't notice. She'd stopped noticing anything. Homeschooled. Quiet. A ghost in her own skin. Until the nightmares began. He's in the trees, Mommy, she'd whisper. Uncle Ethan. I'd rock her, humming lullabies David used to sing. Liar songs. But they worked. Until they didn't. The first letter arrived in the fall. Typed. No postmark. Claire, did you really think it was over? Roses don't die. They multiply. I buried it under the oak tree. The next week another. Lily misses me. Ask her. I didn't. Couldn't. But Daniel did. Is it true? He asked her. Do you talk to him? Lily stared at her hands. In my dreams. That night I found her window open. A trail of petals led into the forest. I followed. Because mothers always follow. Even into hell. The clearing was lit by moonlight. A makeshift altar. Roses, candles, and a Polaroid of Ethan. Lily knelt, chanting. Come back. Come back. I grabbed her. What are you doing? He fought me. He said you'd try to stop me. Her nails drew blood. He's lying. I screamed. He's dead. She froze. No. He's in the garden. Waiting. I dragged her home. Washed her hands. Prayed to a God I didn't believe in. But prayers don't reach this deep into the dark. Daniel changed after that. Withdrawn. Angry. He'd vanish for hours, returning with mud on his boots and blood on his knuckles. Where do you go? I'd ask. Nowhere, he'd snap. One night I followed him. Through the woods, past the altar to a graveyard of rusted carnival rides. He knelt by a fresh grave. I'm sorry, he whispered. I stepped closer. The headstone read, Clarissa. Mother. Monster. Daniel spun. She deserved it, he spat. She hurt Lily. My blood ran cold. What did you do? He lifted a shovel. What you couldn't. I dug. Clawed through dirt until my fingers bled. Clarissa's body lay wrapped in plastic. Rotting. But her face. Serene. Smiling. She was alive when I found her, Daniel said. Begging for mercy. I vomited. You're just like him, I whispered. Like who? He snarled. Dad? Ethan? Or you? The shovel clattered. I ran. From him. From myself. From the truth. I'd created a killer. And he'd inherited my thorns. Lily stopped eating. Stopped speaking. Just stared at the garden, whispering to the roses. He's coming. He's coming. I uprooted them. Burned the soil. Planted lilies. But they wilted overnight. Blackened. Cursed. Daniel brought a priest. Demons, the old man said. This land is poisoned. I laughed. We're the poison. He left a cross. Lily snapped it. He doesn't like it, she said. That night the cabin shook. Footsteps on the roof. Laughter in the walls. Daniel grabbed his rifle. Stay inside. He ordered. But I followed. Into the storm. Into the woods. Into him. Ethan stood in the clearing. Not older. Not decayed. Alive. Smiling. Miss me? I shot him. He kept walking. Bullets tore through him. No blood. No pain. You can't kill a ghost, Claire, he laughed. But I can kill her. He pointed. Lily stood behind me, eyes black as rot. Mommy, she crooned. Let's play. I dropped the gun. Lily, fight it. She tilted her head. Fight what? Ethan vanished. Lily collapsed. Daniel carried her home. We need to leave, he said. But where? There's no outrunning what's inside. The letters kept coming. Claire, you owe me a family. Claire, the garden is hungry. Claire, Lily's almost ready. I burned them all. But ash has a way of sticking. Remembering. One night Lily sleepwalked to the altar. I found her carving symbols into the oak. He says it's time, she murmured. Time for what? I begged. She smiled. To bloom. The next morning, roses surrounded the cabin. Thousands. Crimson. Closing in. Daniel grabbed the gasoline. Burn it all. But Lily stood in the flames. Don't. He screamed. They're mine. I pulled her back. He bit me. Drew blood. Traitor. She hissed. Daniel tackled her. They rolled in the thorns. Blood. Screams. And then, silence. Lily lay still. Daniel cradled her, sobbing. I didn't mean to, shoo, I said. She's sleeping. But her chest didn't rise. The roses wilted. The cabin sighed. And Ethan's voice whispered, told you. I rocked her. Sang David's lullaby. Hush now, baby, don't you cry. Daniel loaded the rifle. I'll find him, he vowed. He's not real, I said. He's us. But he was already gone. Into the woods. Into the dark. I stayed. Waited. Watched Lily's grave bloom roses. Red. Relentless. Alive. Daniel never returned. The police came. Asked questions. I gave no answers. Just stared at the garden. At her. Lily's ghost dances there now. Sometimes with Ethan. Sometimes alone. The roses part for her. They bow. Last week a package arrived. A wedding veil. Yelled. Bloodstained. And a note. Save me a dance, Claire. Tonight I'll wear it. Walk into the woods. Let the thorns take me. Because the devil doesn't win. He inherits. And I'm done fighting. Let the garden feast. Let the roses rise. Let the silence finally end. The veil clung to me like a second skin, yellowed lace scratching my throat. I walked into the woods, petals crunching underfoot. The garden waited. Hungry. Patient. Lily's ghost danced ahead, her laughter echoing through the pines. Mommy's coming, she sang. I followed. Not out of courage. Out of surrender. Some sins can't be outrun. They root. They bloom. They devour. The clearing was a cathedral of rot. Roses coiled around skeletal trees, thorns glistening like teeth. At its center, a throne of bones. Ethan sat there, fleshless, crowned with lilies. Welcome home, Claire, he rasped. Lily skipped to him, her form flickering between child and corpse. We've missed you, she giggled. I stepped closer. Let them go, I begged. Ethan's hollow eyes burned. They're mine now. Just like you. The roses writhed. Vines slithered up my legs. I didn't fight. Let it end. Let it all, Claire. A voice. Daniel's voice. Alive. I agree. Don't you dare quit. He emerged from the shadows, rifle in hand. Older. Harder. My boy. My monster. Daniel, I choked. Save it, he snapped. We finish this. He fired. The throne exploded. Ethan's bones scattered. Lily screamed. No. The garden roared. Vines lashed, thorns piercing Daniel's arms. The locket. He yelled. Burn it. I fumbled at my neck, Clarissa's locket cold against my skin. Inside, a photo of Lily. Smiling. Alive. Do it. Daniel begged. I threw it into the thorns. Flames erupted. The garden shrieked. Ethan's voice howled. You'll regret this. Lily's ghost wavered. Mommy, she whispered. I'm sorry. Then she vanished. The fire spread, purging the rot. Daniel dragged me out. We collapsed on the cabin porch, watching the woods burn. Is it over? I asked. He didn't answer. The flames reflected in his eyes. David's eyes. We'll see, he said. Morning came. Ash rained like snow. The garden was gone. Scorched earth. Silence. But the cabin, it breathed. Walls creaked. Floorboards groaned. He's still here, Daniel muttered. In the walls. I packed our bags. We're leaving. He shook his head. No. I'm staying. Daniel, I'll burn it all, he said. Every last root. I touched his face. Come with me. He pulled away. I belong here. I left at dusk. Rearview mirror full of smoke. Heart full of thorns. I drifted. Motel to motel. Name to name. But the roses found me. Petals on the windshield. Thorns in the bed. Lily's laughter in the static. One night a knock. Claire, a voice crooned. Clarissa. Flesh restored. Smile venomous. You owe me a daughter. I slammed the door. Packed again. Fled again. But the road ended at a carnival. Lights flickering. Music warped. Welcome home, Ethan's voice boomed. The Ferris wheel turned. Lily sat atop, waving. Join us, Mommy. I stepped inside. Let the ride carry me. Higher. Higher. The cabin burned below. Daniel stood in the flames, rifle raised. Goodbye, Mom, he mouthed. The shot rang. The Ferris wheel snapped. I fell. Rose petals cushioned me. Bucking. Soft. Ethan's face loomed. Forever, Claire. I closed my eyes. Let the thorns take me. Let the silence, Mom. A hand grabbed mine. Daniel. Ew. Alive. Get up. He growled. We ran. The carnival collapsed behind us. How? I panted. I told you, he said. I burn it all. We drove until dawn. No roses. No voices. Just road. Where now? I asked. Daniel glanced at me. Somewhere we can't be found. But I knew. Knew in the way he checked the mirrors. Knew in the way he slept with the knife. The curse wasn't broken. I was sleeping. And we were its cradle. Years passed. Daniel married a sweet girl named Rose. Veronica. They had a daughter. Lily. Her laugh, her laugh. I tried to warn them. Don't plant flowers, I begged. Don't say his name. They humored me. Until the roses came. Crimson. Relentless. Alive. Daniel confronted me. Enough, Mom. It's over. But that night I heard it, the creak of the Ferris wheel. The whisper of thorns. I crept to Lily's crib. A rose on her blanket. Hello, Claire, Ethan's voice purred. Round 2. I took the baby. Ran. Always running. Daniel chased. She's mine. He roared. You're mad. Maybe. But madness knows truth. I reached the cliff. Waves roared below. Give her back. Daniel pleaded. Lily cooed. Innocent. Doomed. I'm saving her, I whispered. And jumped. The fall was slow. Peaceful. Rose petals swirled. Ethan's laugh echoed. See you soon. Then, darkness. I woke in a garden. Eternal. Blooming. Lily in my arms. No thorns. No pain. Just peace. But peace is a lie. Daniel's voice called. Distant. Desperate. Mom. I rocked Lily. Hush now, baby, the roses whispered. Forever. I smiled. Let them come. Let them try. This time I'll be ready. The veil clung to me like a second skin, yellowed lace scratching my throat. I walked into the woods, petals crunching underfoot. The garden waited. Hungry. Patient. Lily's ghost danced ahead, her laughter echoing through the pines. Mommy's coming, she sang. I followed. Not out of courage. Out of surrender. Some sins can't be outrun. They root. They bloom. They devour. The clearing was a cathedral of rot. Roses coiled around skeletal trees, thorns glistening like teeth. At its center, a throne of bones. Ethan sat there, fleshless, crowned with lilies. Welcome home, Claire, he rasped. Lily skipped to him, her form flickering between child and corpse. We've missed you, she giggled. I stepped closer. Let them go, I begged. Ethan's hollow eyes burned. They're mine now. Just like you. The roses writhed. Vines slithered up my legs. I didn't fight. Let it end. Let it all, Claire. A voice. Daniel's voice. Alive. I agree. Don't you dare quit. He emerged from the shadows, rifle in hand. Older. Harder. My boy. My monster. Daniel, I choked. Save it, he snapped. We finish this. He fired. The throne exploded. Ethan's bones scattered. Lily screamed. No. The garden roared. Vines lashed, thorns piercing Daniel's arms. The locket. He yelled. Burn it. I fumbled at my neck, Clarissa's locket cold against my skin. Inside, a photo of Lily. Smiling. Alive. Do it. Daniel begged. I threw it into the thorns. Flames erupted. The garden shrieked. Ethan's voice howled. You'll regret this. Lily's ghost wavered. Mommy, she whispered. I'm sorry. Then she vanished. The fire spread, purging the rot. Daniel dragged me out. We collapsed on the cabin porch, watching the woods burn. Is it over? I asked. He didn't answer. The flames reflected in his eyes. David's eyes. We'll see, he said. Morning came. Ash rained like snow. The garden was gone. Scorched earth. Silence. But the cabin, it breathed. Walls creaked. Floorboards groaned. He's still here, Daniel muttered. In the walls. I packed our bags. We're leaving. He shook his head. No. I'm staying. Daniel, I'll burn it all, he said. Every last root. I touched his face. Come with me. He pulled away. I belong here. I left at dusk. Rearview mirror full of smoke. Heart full of thorns. I drifted. Motel to motel. Name to name. But the roses found me. Petals on the windshield. Thorns in the bed. Lily's laughter in the static. One night a knock. Claire, a voice crooned. Clarissa. Flesh restored. Smile venomous. You owe me a daughter. I slammed the door. Packed again. fled again. But the road ended at a carnival. Lights flickering. Music warped. Welcome home, Ethan's voice boomed. The Ferris wheel turned. Lily sat atop, waving. Join us, Mommy. I stepped inside. Let the ride carry me. Higher. Higher. The cabin burned below. Daniel stood in the flames, rifle raised. Goodbye, Mom, he mouthed. The shot rang. The Ferris wheel snapped. I fell. Rose petals cushioned me. Mucking. Soft. Ethan's face loomed. Forever, Claire. I closed my eyes. Let the thorns take me. Let the silence, Mom. A hand grabbed mine. Daniel. You. Alive. Get up. He growled. We ran. The carnival collapsed behind us. How? I panted. I told you, he said. I burn it all. We drove until dawn. No roses. No voices. Just road. Where now? I asked. Daniel glanced at me. Somewhere we can't be found. But I knew. Knew in the way he checked the mirrors. Knew in the way he slept with the knife. The curse wasn't broken. I was sleeping. And we were its cradle. Years passed. Daniel married. A sweet girl named Rose. Veronica. They had a daughter. Lily. Her laugh, her laugh. I tried to warn them. Don't plant flowers, I begged. Don't say his name. They humored me. Until the roses came. Crimson. Relentless. Alive. Daniel confronted me. Enough, Mom. It's over. But that night I heard it, the creak of the Ferris wheel. The whisper of thorns. I crept to Lily's crib. A rose on her blanket. Hello, Claire, Ethan's voice purred. Round 2. I took the baby. Ran. Again. Always running. Daniel chased. She's mine. He roared. You're mad. Maybe. But madness knows truth. I reached the cliff. Waves roared below. Give her back. Daniel pleaded. Lily cooed. Innocent. Doomed. I'm saving her, I whispered. And jumped. The fall was slow. Peaceful. Rose petals swirled. Ethan's laugh echoed. See you soon. Then, darkness. I woke in a garden. Eternal. Blooming. Lily in my arms. No thorns. No pain. Just peace. But peace is a lie. Daniel's voice called. Distant. Desperate. Mom. I rocked Lily. Hush now, baby, the roses whispered. Forever. I smiled. Let them come. Let them try. This time I'll be ready.